Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, it was just me and my dad. My mom passed away when I was 4, and from then on, it was the two of us against the world. We lived a pretty simple life. My dad worked full-time, and I spent most of my time at school or with friends. We got by, though it wasn't always easy. When I was about 12, my dad remarried. He met Linda through a friend, and she quickly became part of our lives. At first, I was happy that my dad found someone. I thought Linda might bring a little more warmth and feminine energy into our home, maybe fill the gap my mom left behind. And in the very beginning, it seemed like she was trying. She'd take me shopping, help me with my hair, and ask about school. I thought this might actually work out. But over time, I started to notice things about Linda that I didn't like. She loved expensive things. Not just loved, she practically lived for them. She always wanted the newest designer handbags, the fanciest shoes, the most luxurious perfumes. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, it wasn't really my business what she liked to buy and spent money on. But I began to see how it affected my dad. He started working longer hours, picking up side gigs, and constantly worrying about money just to keep up with Linda's demands. I could tell he was stressed, but he didn't say anything. He just kept trying to make her happy. A few years into their marriage, my dad lost his job. That's when everything went downhill. Suddenly, there was no steady income, and the tension in the house started to build. Linda still wanted to shop, still wanted to maintain her lifestyle, but my dad simply couldn't keep up anymore. They argued constantly. The fights were loud, angry, and relentless. I'd hear Linda complaining that she deserved nice things, and my dad tried to explain that there was no money for them. It was exhausting just to be in the same house. I started staying in my room more and more, trying to avoid the shouting matches. At the same time, I was dealing with my own struggles. I had severe acne, painful, inflamed breakouts that covered my face. It made me feel self-conscious and isolated. I didn't want to be in photos or go out with friends. I tried everything to fix it. Drugstore treatments, home remedies, you name it, but nothing worked. Finally, I found a dermatologist who said they could help. They recommended prescription medications, specific skincare products, and eventually laser treatments to reduce scarring. It sounded promising, but there was one big problem. It wasn't cheap. Since my dad was out of work, I knew he couldn't help with the costs. So I decided to save up on my own. I worked every odd job I could, babysitting, dog walking, mowing lawns, helping neighbors with yard work, anything to earn a little cash. I kept every dollar in an envelope hidden in my room. I stopped buying new clothes and turned down invites to eat out with friends so I could save more. Slowly but surely, my savings grew, and I finally started to feel hopeful. I thought maybe, for the first time in years, I'd have the confidence to look people in the eye without worrying about my skin. Then one day, I went to add a few more dollars to my envelope and found it empty. I couldn't believe it. I searched everywhere, thinking I must have moved it or forgotten where I put it. I checked every drawer, under the mattress, behind the furniture. Nothing. The money was gone. I sat there in disbelief, trying to figure out what had happened. Then it hit me. I remembered hearing my dad and Linda arguing about money the week before. Linda wanted a new handbag, but my dad told her they couldn't afford it. I didn't have proof, but in that moment, I knew. My dad must have taken my savings to keep Linda happy. After a day of going back and forth in my head, I finally decided to confront him. When I asked him about the money, he hesitated, then looked away and admitted he'd taken it. "I'm sorry," he said, and for a second, I thought he might actually mean it. But then he added, "I just couldn't let my marriage fall apart over this. I'll make it up to you. I'll repay every cent." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that he would fix this, that he'd do the right thing. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I told myself he was just in a bad spot, and once he got back on his feet, he'd give me my money back. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. That repayment never came. Every time I brought it up, he brushed it off or changed the subject. Eventually, I stopped asking. It was clear that I wasn't going to see that money again. From that point on, I started planning my escape. I focused on school, made sure I'd graduate on time, and counted the days until I turned 18. I kept my head down, avoided unnecessary conversations, and just waited. When I finally hit 18, I moved out. I didn't make a big scene, just quietly packed my things, found a tiny apartment, and started fresh. From that point on, I only saw my dad and Linda once a year at Christmas. I kept our contact to a bare minimum. I had no desire to be involved in their lives anymore. By the time I moved out, they had 2 more kids, Jake and Sophia. I didn't have much of a relationship with them. They were spoiled from the start, and whenever I visited, they'd tease me endlessly. "Still haven't fixed that face of yours," Jake would snicker, and Sophia would laugh along. I'd sit there, quietly eating my dinner, counting the minutes until I could leave. Those Christmas visits became a dreaded obligation, something I endured rather than enjoyed. Fast forward to last Christmas. I showed up for my usual visit, expecting the same awkward, uncomfortable dinner as always. But this time, my dad made an announcement. With a big smile on his face, he told us that Linda was starting her own clothing line. He went on about how she had become a designer and was opening a boutique. He even showed me her new Instagram account, filled with pictures of her work. I scrolled through the account, nodding politely, but her designs looked really familiar. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but the more I looked, the more I realized I'd seen those clothes before. I started digging, comparing her posts to some of the most well-known designs from a famous fashion label in our country. It didn't take long to confirm my suspicions. Linda wasn't designing anything. She was copying these clothes piece for piece. They weren't inspired by the originals. They were exact replicas. At first, I felt embarrassed for her. Did she really think no one would notice? But then I started to feel something else. Anger. I thought back to all the times I stayed silent, all the times I put up with their nonsense. I remembered how she and my dad had taken my hard-earned savings without a second thought, and how I'd never stood up for myself. I decided I wasn't going to stay quiet this time. I sent a message to the original designer, attaching screenshots and a link of Linda's Instagram posts. I explained what I'd found and let them know exactly who was behind it. Then, I took my own social media accounts. I have around 10,000 followers, thanks to years of sharing my skincare journey and helping others with their own struggles. I posted about Linda's boutique, explaining that she was passing off someone else's work as her own. I wasn't mean about it, but I didn't hold back the truth. I wanted people to know what she was doing. It didn't take long for the backlash to start. Linda's Instagram was flooded with comments calling her out and tagging the original designer. Within days, her boutique's reputation was destroyed. My dad and Linda were furious. They accused me of ruining her business and threatened to sue me for defamation. I wasn't intimidated. I told them, "Good luck with that. Just make sure you're not the ones getting sued first by the designer you stole from." Now, the whole family is in chaos. My dad keeps trying to guilt me, saying I embarrassed him and made things harder for everyone. Linda is furious, and her boutique is all but finished. But for the first time, I don't feel powerless. I'm not the quiet kid who lets them walk all over me anymore. If they can't handle the truth, that's their problem, not mine. Also, finally, I don't need to attend those horrible Christmases. Am I the a-hole for exposing my stepmother and ruining her business? OP is absolutely not the a-hole. What OP's stepmother did wasn't just unethical. It was outright theft of someone else's work. And OP's dad enabling her behavior by stealing from OP in the past? Honestly, it sounds like OP's actions were the only way to bring some accountability to this situation. She wasn't just taking shortcuts. She was lying to everyone about her so-called talent. OP didn't ruin her business. She ruined it herself by building it on dishonesty and theft. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Definitely not the a-hole. You're calling out blatant plagiarism. Imagine if you hadn't spoke up. Linda might have gotten away with profiting off someone else's hard work. And considering she and your dad had no problem taking from you when you were younger, it's not like they've ever been concerned about fairness. Sure, it caused drama, but they can't blame you for their own shady choices. Linda put herself in this position by copying someone else's designs. If she didn't want to face the consequences, she shouldn't have stolen ideas in the first place. All you did was shine a light on the truth. It's not like you made up lies to take her down. You literally just shared what she was doing. And honestly, if she really cared about her business, she should have started by being honest, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's not even just about Linda's business. It's about holding people accountable when they knowingly do something wrong. She wasn't just inspired by another designer. She outright copied them. That's fraud, plain and simple. If you hadn't exposed her, she could have kept scamming customers and damaging the reputation of the original designer. You did the right thing, even if it stirred up some family drama. Don't let them guilt you into thinking otherwise. I, 27, have two stepsisters, 29 and 25. I'm the only sibling who has gotten married, and admittedly, my wedding was bigger than I would have liked had the decision been only mine. My stepsister had gotten our whole family involved during the planning period, and things were very awkward for me throughout. It seems to me that my stepsister was essentially trying to compete with my wedding. At every step of the planning process, my stepsister asked me how much I spent and intentionally tried to spend more than I did. When she asked me about the cost of our venue, I told her it was free, as using it was a wedding gift from my husband's best friend. But my stepsister wouldn't accept this and went through a lot of trouble trying to make a booking just to find out how much they charge on average. She ended up finding an even more expensive venue with a longer waiting list, having to delay her wedding to this year instead of last year. Despite going ahead with the wedding, she was forced to cut down on guest list by a lot, so everything seemed a little bit empty, and she ended up paying a lot of money for guests that couldn't even attend in the end. A week ago, my stepsister was complaining about how the virus ruined her wedding, and she was paying off bank loans for a day that was ruined. This was the first time I was hearing about her using loans to pay for her wedding, so I told her that was a bad decision on her part, and she should have had a smaller wedding. She got annoyed at me and made a sarcastic comment about how only I deserved a big wedding, and the rest of us peasants only deserved a small wedding. She ended up telling me she wanted a bigger and better wedding than mine, and she would have a redo when the virus was over. I told her she was weird for trying to top my wedding, and she deserved the debt for being so dumb. She was furious at me and yelled until I left the call. My parents and younger stepsister have all been badgering me to apologize, since I've set a trend for my wedding, and I should have been more considerate on how everyone else would feel. My stepdad has even suggested I offer to help her pay off some of the debt as a gesture of goodwill. Was I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your stepsister is an adult, and her decisions were her own. Absolutely don't pay for any of her debt for this. What a bizarre suggestion. Not the a-hole. She's focused more on topping you than spending within her means, and she's setting her marriage up for failure. Your stepdad is hilarious with his suggestion that you help pay for a wedding that isn't yours. They can be miserable playing keep up with the Joneses if they want. It has nothing to do with you. Not the a-hole. Don't apologize. Let your family be mad at it. It's her fault, not yours. She decided to top your wedding. She practically made her wedding day about topping yours instead of celebrating the fact that she's getting married. So tell her she should enjoy her debts and stop complaining to you about decisions and poor budgeting skills that she willingly made on her own. P.S. Tell your stepdad to duck off. It was his daughter's wedding. If anyone should show goodwill, it should be him. You've done nothing wrong. Don't let them badger you into feeling you have. For context, I'm 19 female, and my half-sister is 36 female. She has a partner, 39 male, as well as 3 kids, 14 female, 13 male, and 5 female. We've never been close due to our age gap, so growing up I had felt like an only child. My half-sister had always lived in her home whilst I always lived with our mother, who was a single parent. In September of last year, I left for my first year of university, but I practically dropped out when my mother was diagnosed with cancer and returned home. She passed in June. My mother did not leave a will, so it was decided that her life insurance, pensions, and money from the sale of her car would be split evenly between me and my sister. That all went according to plan, leaving only her apartment. The apartment was rented from a social housing association. It was decided that I would succeed the tenancy, because otherwise I would have had nowhere to stay during the summer. My sister reassured me at the beginning of my tenancy that everything in the apartment belonged to me, and that I could do whatever I saw fit with the furniture once I gave up the apartment and moved back to my university city. Side note, I grew up in that apartment, and all the furniture and appliances in the house, me and my mother accumulated together. My sister never lived there, nor contributed towards anything. Fast forward a bit. My sister asks if I could give her the fridge, washing machine, and my bedroom furniture, all brand new. I told her that I would be more than happy to let her take them if she gives me a hand with clearing my apartment out. I also asked her kindly if she could upload some photos of my furniture to Facebook Marketplace because I didn't have Facebook. She agreed. Yesterday, she texted me and told me that a family was interested. I told her to give them my contact details, and the family came to my house today and took everything, minus the brand new appliances, furniture that my sister wanted, paying me £280. I told my sister, and she demanded that I give her half of the money, lecturing me on the fact that we agreed to have everything. I told her no way, because the furniture I sold was mine. My sister ended up blowing up on me, telling me that I have lost all self-respect and that I must pay. I stayed firm, so she ended the conversation by telling me that she's disgusted with me and that she couldn't believe that I would do this to her and to not contact her again. Cut to the evening of the same day. Her partner texted me. He threatened me with court, boasting that nothing in the apartment was mine and that everything actually belonged to them. He also spouted that they were going to call the police because by keeping the money, I was stealing from them. I told them that he was wrong, which made him even more aggressive. He threatened to come to the house and began insulting me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If she never lived there and supposedly gave it to you, she has no say over it. If she wanted this stuff, she would have taken it by now. Hell, now keep the other stuff you promised her. They will pay more in court fees and for a lawyer than the money and stuff is worth. Teach them a lesson about greed. Not the a-hole. Money brings out the worst in people. Tell them to go try to fight for it, because they'll end up paying more in legal fees. Not the a-hole. Her boyfriend has absolutely nothing to do with this. He should mind his own business. Your sister sounds like a greedy person and probably is being advised by her boyfriend. She has no right to your bedroom furniture. I'd get some legal advice because her boyfriend sounds like a troublemaker. We recently got engaged a couple months back. I wanted to get my girlfriend the exact ring she wanted, so instead of surprising her, I took her to a jewelry store in the guys to window shop and see if I could maybe look at financing options. We looked at different diamonds, cuts, and bands to figure out what she likes. She wanted a 2-carat diamond, but it seemed way out of budget at $28,000 to $60,000 for a 2-carat with the cut, color, and clarity range she wanted. We were given 3 diamonds to look at 3 different carats and price range. She picked the medium size at 1.5 carat and a band with about 0.5 carat of diamonds on the band, which totaled up to around $16,000 plus tax. I surprised her by buying the ring on the spot, even though it's not what I thought she deserves. If I could, I would buy the most expensive one. I always thought I can trade the ring up when I have saved more money. I proposed a few months later after I bought the ring. A few months in, and she discloses to me that she settled for the ring I bought her because she was considering how I just bought a new car for us to use at that time, and how I'm the primary individual working, paying, and saving for our future, and all of our financial burden is on me, such as saving for a house, saving for a wedding, saving for her college, as she wants to go back to school, etc. I asked her why she doesn't like the ring, and she feels that she settled with it. Her response was she always wanted a 2-carat diamond, and always wanted an expensive ring in the event I die and she can't support our child. We don't have one. She can sell the ring. Even though I assured her I included her in my life insurance policy, which is worth way more than the ring. I am deeply hurt and offended that she feels the ring I bought her, which is a lot of money to me, is settling. Should I be grateful, as she said I should, that she only picked the medium-sized 1.5 carat because she was considering finances, or offended because she seems ungrateful to me? Have you heard of a prenup? 'Cause you're gonna need one. Red flags are waving high in this one. Dude, marinara flags everywhere. Your comments show how immature and materialistic she is. You will be in a world of hurt in a couple years. Prenup, premarital counseling, something. Because you want to take care of her, she stopped trying to grow up. A couple of my guy friends ended up marrying girls like that, and bad things happened, and they are scrimping to get by now because of alimony and child support. Think really, really hard. Not the a-hole. You need to send her to some financial literacy classes. Having a ring to sell is not a backup plan in the event of tragedy. If she wants a bigger ring, she can buy it herself. This is scary as hell. Using a ring as life insurance policy instead of having actual money. She financially contributes nothing to this relationship, and you're not even married yet. And she's thinking about this kind of crap over an engagement ring. Run.